Hi, today I'll show you how to make my angel food cake recipe. It's really fluffy and so good. To get started, place half a cup of sugar in a small blender or food processor and blend it until it's very fine. Next up, you're gonna measure half a cup of all-purpose flour minus 1 tablespoon. And you're gonna replace that 1 tablespoon with 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. This will make cake flour if you don't have any like I did. If you do have cake flour, use half a cup. Place the cake flour mixture in the same blender as the sugar. I processed the sugar first because sugar is more grainy than flour. You're blending the flour and sugar so it can aerate the dry ingredients and create maximum fluffiness for the cake. Place the cake flour and sugar mixture in a different bowl and add a quarter cup of sugar to the same blender and blend it again. In this bowl, I have 6 egg whites and I'm going to whip them until it's very fluffy. When the egg whites are really foamy like this, add in the quarter cup of sugar that I just blended really slowly. If you add in all the sugar at once, it'll deflate the meringue and cause a really dense cake. Make sure to scrape down the sides of the bowl because some of the egg whites might not be whipped. A lot of times I have this beautiful fluffy meringue on top of the bowl, and on the bottom of the bowl I have this non-whipped egg whites left. Whip the egg whites until it reaches in the middle between soft peaks and stiff peaks. Right here, I added in around a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste. I also added in a quarter teaspoon of salt to balance out all the sugar we added in. After I folded in the salt, I got a sift and I sifted in the dry ingredients a little bit at a time. You do not want to use a whisk to whisk in the flour. That'll deflate all the air bubbles you just whipped into the meringue. Instead, you want to grab a spatula and fold in the dry ingredients like this. I added in the dry ingredients by thirds. There will be some leftover sugar that wasn't blended, so don't add that in. This is what the batter should look like, nice and fluffy. Right here, I attempted to use a mini bundt cake pan. I used a mini ice cream scoop to scoop in the batter. I absolutely do not recommend using small pans like this. In the end, the mini cakes were very dense and chewy. For a big angel food cake, I use this bundt cake pan. Any pan that has a hole in it is good. But be sure to never grease the pan when you make angel food cake. Greasing the pan will cause the oil to go into the meringue and deflate it. Smooth out the batter with a mini spatula, then put into an oven that's at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for around 30 to 45 minutes. You also want to place your cakes on the lowest rack of your oven to make sure the cakes don't burn. To test if the angel food cake is done, when you press down on the cake and it springs back, it's good. These were the mini angel food cakes that were a fail. The angel food cake should be golden, but I underbaked mine. And this is what happens when you don't grease the pan. But if you grease the pan, it'll cause the cake to sink and become very dense. You just want to take a sharp knife and run around the edges, then flip it over and let it cool upside down for about an hour. Letting the cake cool upside down will do two things. For one, it will help the cake come out of the pan easier, and for two, it will make the cake more fluffy. If you let the cake cool right side up, the cake will just sink into the pan. After about an hour, the cake should come out of the pan easily. I decorated my angel food cake with powdered sugar and strawberries. Right here, I show you how fluffy this cake really is.